Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep, this time into the mind of Katsuki Bakugou. Yes guys, we are going to do another psychological video on a My Hero Academia character. We kind of dabbled on these topics before. I slightly covered Light Yagami from the Death Note series, going over whether the dude was a full-on psychopath or just a sociopath molded by his environment. We actually did a couple of characters like Overhaul, explaining how he turned into a contradicting evil child abusing villain. We also did some Naruto characters, and we are planning to do Sakura very soon. So if you like this series, then make sure to smash that like button and let me know in the comment section below whose minds you want us to delve into and go balls deep. But for now guys, it's Bakugou's round. I've been wanting to do this video for a while now. Although Bakugou might not be a popular character in the West, in Japan this boy is ranked quite highly in all the popularity polls, where he consistently ranked within the top 5 characters throughout 6 different polls, where he consecutively ranked first place. Yes guys, I'm talking about first place above All Might, above Deku. First place in ranks through poll 2, 3, 4 and 5. That's pretty crazy. Japan loves this kid. I kind of feel the same way, as there is much more to Bakugou than what meets the eye, along with Bakugou showing one of the better character developments in this series. However, this bout for Bakugou even took the My Hero Academia author Horikoshi by surprise. In an interview, Horikoshi stated that he assumed everyone would hate Bakugou's character, but it has been the opposite. In his words, he said, "Bakugou has always been the bully, and he ends up going to school with Deku. So I had them in a big fight pretty early on, but through that fight, you were able to see Bakugou's humanity, that he was just a short-tempered kid." In another interview, Horikoshi was asked, Deku's childhood friend Bakugou was introduced in the beginning of the series as a bit too shocking, right? Where Horikoshi responded, "He really was horrible. No one can forgive him for that kind of behavior, but for some reason he always ranks highly in the popularity, so it's really strange." Throughout these responses by Horikoshi, he tends to emphasize on the idea that Bakugou's character was liked because of this flaw, bringing out the most human in people, along with his ability to develop his character throughout the interactions he makes. But with all that, I would still say that Katsuki Bakugou is probably one of the most controversial characters in My Hero Academia, and for some good reason. I mean, literally in episode 1 of My Hero, the boy tells our protagonist Deku to go kill himself. That's pretty freaking savage if you ask me.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Even Horikoshi said in an interview that he wouldn't want Bakugou near him at all. Now, I don't blame anyone. Bakugou seemed like a bad person and I understand why. However, this scene already gives a heavy clue on Bakugou's character, but the mistake here is thinking that that is all there is to Bakugou. As we progress through the series, we come to realize he is easily one of the most complex rivals out here, meeting the crucial underlying factors that makes up what a good rival should be. But guys, before I go balls deep, I need to give a fair warning that it takes a level of intuition and patience to understand someone like our boy Bakugou. I know there are people out there who are like, "Oh, screw that Baku bastard, he's evil and bullies Deku. I want Horikoshi to kill him right now." I don't know what the accent was. But there are others who are more patient with the constant yelling and horrible attitude, who are more of a Sherlock up in this shit. Yes, I'm talking about the ones who try to analyze every layer to his character, and that's what we gotta do. So I'm gonna try and explain Bakugou's relationship with Deku, his complex nature to feel the need to be on top and the best, where later his growth comes from his ability to realize that certain traits found in other heroes like All Might and Deku are missing within him, so he feels the need to compensate with hard work and brute force. However, ultimately he is trying to learn to communicate with others, where he will have to lower his guard sooner or later, finally achieve his dreams of becoming the #1 hero recognized by everyone. This might actualize later in the series by taking a role during the final fight against All for One. Who knows, we might get a similar event to the movie where Deku might share his one for all with Bakugou, but in the end he will not forget like he did in the movies. This could be a way for Bakugou to achieve his dreams of becoming a hero like All Might, saving the world, along with demonstrating the evolution of his character. Now, out of everyone, I would say the one who truly understands Bakugou are All Might, Deku, Kirishima, but most importantly his mother, Mitsuki Bakugou. Now maybe there are more characters, but out of everyone I believe these characters are the most important. However, I'm going to focus on his mother, so let's start to analyze Mitsuki's point of view of her son, as her approach differs drastically from Deku and All Might. In chapter 96 or episode 50, Aizawa Sensei and All Might visits Bakugo's house to speak on the kidnapping incident, and this is where we kinda get a glimpse to understanding the crux to Bakugo's personality, because his mother goes on to explain that Bakugo's personality to be the cause of being praised too much as a child. He was praised for shallow things and in turn developed the slightly narcissistic personality he has now. So Mitsuki believes the way to handle Bakugo is knocking him down a peg and bringing him back to reality. She does this the true Asian way by smacking the boy and freaking insulting him as she proclaims he would not have gotten kidnapped if he hadn't been so weak. Now this is the typical Asian parents reinforcement technique. We call it the negative reinforcement. You constantly push the kid to the edge until they either break or evolve into a better version of themselves. But in all honesty, Bakugo's mother has a better understanding of her son and doesn't really show any sign of abuse like we see in the case of Shoto Todoroki and his father Endeavor. Now while Mitsuki obviously takes more of a parental role, Deku and All Might's approach with Bakugo seems more delicate. Deku and All Might understand that Bakugo feels the need to prove himself and is threatened by those who surpass him. Now you may be wondering, Bakugo feeling inferior? Get the F out of here. He acts like he's better than everyone. Well, this is precisely the case. Bakugo was the golden child, as Mitsuki explained. All his life, the adults around him stroked his ego to an unhealthy degree. Now over time, this created a certain mindset within Bakugo where he believed the weak cannot get stronger and thus the strong, more or less, should conquer the weak. A borderline fascist ideology. Not only did the adults around Bakugo instill this belief, but society did too. We know in My Hero Academia society, individuals with non-offensive quirk or no quirks are not considered equal to people like Bakugo or Shoto, for example. With his own environment and society itself acting on this, it's easy to see how Bakugo instilled this rigid mindset on himself. However, Bakugo's reality started to shift whenever Deku tried to help him, and things really took a turn when Deku got his quirk. Deku was the embodiment of someone who was quite literally weak physically and mentally. Like, I love my boy Deku, but the way he cried when he found out he had no quirk, along with the way he let himself be pushed over, showed his weak mentality. Although one could say that's part of Deku's compassion and whatever, but we all know that Bakugo appreciates mental fortitude as much as power. This is exhibited when he fought Uraraka in the tournament. He showed his respect for her incredible resilience, though she was much weaker than him physically. So Bakugo's first impression of Deku isn't someone who's strong mentally or physically, but why does he have so much anger towards him? Well, all of that comes down to their interactions. Deku has helped Bakugo on multiple occasions, even prior to obtaining One for All, such as when Bakugo fell in a river as a child and Deku held his hands out, and most notably when Bakugo got captured by that massive sludge villain, with the event even being televised. To Bakugo, who believes he's the best, it's really insulting to have what in your eyes is the worst, weakest form of entity to exist, to actually even save you from danger. To him, it's a direct attack to his pride. If you think about it, to him it's like Vegeta being saved by Yamcha. Or imagine Dwayne The Rock Johnson being saved by a little girl. Like, it doesn't make sense. And in Bakugo's eyes, Deku doesn't make sense. From then on, it doesn't get easier for Bakugo. When Deku gets his quirk, this birthed the Bakugo we know now, and ultimately the meltdown he has in season 3. Not only did Deku get his quirk 11 years later than normal through inheriting One for All, but it's such an incredible power that it allowed Deku to surpass Bakugo on numerous occasions. Mind you, this is before Bakugo even figures out Deku obtained One for All through All Might. Deku, who was once a pebble on the road, suddenly became a threat to Bakugo, the seemingly unstoppable hero. Not only does Bakugo have this to deal with, but after the battle with One for All and All Might, he finally realizes not only that Deku is the successor for One for All, but also Bakugo himself was partially responsible for accelerating the retirement and pretty much caused the death of the number one hero, the hero he admired, All Might. Eventually, we see all of this boil over and amount into an epic meltdown in season 3. This scene lets us in on Bakugo's self-hatred, and it was so unlike him to be emotional, and you can't even help but truly sympathize with his character.
This shit good.
But the most interesting aspect to all of this is that Deku still considered Bakugo a freaking friend in all of this. The same guy that told Deku to kill himself, who has fought him brutally many times and even coined the nickname Deku to one of its meaning of being useless. And with all of that, Deku still sees this guy as a friend. Now you may be thinking, is Deku just freaking stupid, or is he seeing something that we don't? It may be a bit of both. Well, that might be a little bit harsh, but I do believe Deku is quite naive, insecure, and so inspired by Bakugo that somehow he still considers this guy as a friend despite all the abuse. Along with societal effects, Bakugo helped instill the belief into Deku that he is weak and cannot get stronger. In Deku's eyes, he looked at the strong for inspiration, which was seen in relations with All Might, but as a kid amongst his peers, Bakugo was the strongest and probably the only comparison to what he must strive to be. To Deku, Bakugo was the closest he would be to All Might, and because Deku had such low self-esteem, he didn't reject the abuse and mindset he put onto himself. However, I don't really blame Deku for doing this, as he was only a child and had few role models beside hero figures which most of society already latched onto. In some odd ways, Deku needed Bakugo to help him grow and continue believing that he can be a hero. Let me give you guys an analogy, a Yusuf's analogy, a anime balls deep analogy. Imagine you love basketball, but you don't have the height, you don't have the sight, you have nothing going for you. But as a kid, you grew up with Michael Jordan. Goddamn Michael Jordan, you telling me you ain't gonna be best friends with Michael Jordan? I don't give a shit how much he picks on you. Even if he bullies you, if he try to kill you, you're still gonna be cleaning and licking his boots because you want to be near Michael Jordan, the pinnacle of basketball. Bruh. So Deku being so accepting of Bakugo does make a lot of sense, especially with his characteristics. But hey, we ain't deep diving into Deku right now. But with everything said, I can confidently say Season 3's moment at exposing Bakugo's deeper insecurities is what led him to be so well liked within the fandom. Having all the humanistic flaws along with the anger that comes with it makes it much more realistic for audience to relate to. Even the fact that Bakugo was angry at Deku for a long time makes a lot of sense after having your pride poked at time after time, and then finding out the person who was poking your pride wasn't even showing his full potential. It's only human for you to feel upset and angry at the situation. But Bakugo's Season 3 moment showcased that he wasn't just a one-dimensional bully, but actually a human being with reasons for his actions. And honestly, this breakdown wasn't the first sign of our spiky-haired douche being so complex. Several times in the story, Bakugo is shown to be quite analytical and smart. As shown earlier in the tournament fight against Uraraka, he figured out her fighting pattern and that she was helped by Deku. Also, when he was able to put the pieces together that Deku inherited one for all, with only Shoto Todoroki coming close to figuring this out. There are many cases where Bakugo can actually use his head, and I don't mean in a heated way. Bakugo is a flawed character striving to be better, just like every one of us, and I think an aggressive rival with complexity and development is refreshing for fans, as the cooler rival tends to be quite dull outside of being cool. This and more is one of the signs Bakugo is achieving to become number one. We know that he, Shoto, and Deku are all inspired by All Might for different reasons. Deku wants to become like All Might, Shoto wants to surpass All Might to prove a point to Endeavor, and Bakugo wants to surpass All Might for himself. Horikoshi is writing it so all three will go through the steps in becoming number one. Bakugo not only gained more battle techniques, but is learning what it means to be a hero. After causing All Might's retirement, Bakugo realized he must humble himself and consider the safety of others if he wants to become a hero. And during their second provisional license arc, it was said that Bakugo was attacking to avoid friendly fire, and noted how much he changed. It's also worth noting that in this arc, Endeavor asks All Might what it means to be a hero, which pretty much parallels Bakugo's situation, as is later noted on that these two are similar in personality. And if you think about it, both Endeavor and Bakugo are fire types, both with fiery personalities that often causes conflict with those around them, and this isn't a reach either. During the My Villain Academy arc, we realizes that people are quite literally their quirk. Toga, for example, with the transformation quirk, requires the consumption of blood to use the power. This led to her fascination and insatiable desire to drink blood that society shamed her for until she snapped and only lived to fall in love, as she proclaims. Then we have Shigaraki, who only desires destruction and has the decay quirk, which also turns his hair white and weakens his body. Now, how can we apply this to Bakugo? Well, we know that Mitsuki has the nitroglycerin quirk, and Bakugo produces nitroglycerin sweat to ignite into explosions for his quirk. The effect, as we have seen, is highly destructive, and not only to opponents but Bakugo himself. So with that, it's time for some ABD bullshit anime science, because now I'm going to explain why Bakugo's erratic behaviors at times could be out of his control. Nitroglycerin is a dense, colorless and explosive liquid often produced by nitrating glycerin and nitric acid. It can be used to help heart problems like angina and heart failures, but it does this by dilating the vascular system or blood vessels, which in turn lower blood pressure. However, nitroglycerin is such a powerful vasodilator that the blood pressure can decrease quite drastically for someone with a healthy heart, someone like Bakugo. Yes, the body counters this by raising adrenaline levels, but in Bakugo's case, these levels would have to be elevated constantly to prevent passing out or death. So in full, Bakugo is constantly overexcited just because of his quirk. If Horikoshi wants to follow with the tragedy of a superhuman society, making Bakugo's controversial personality be the result of his quirk, a power that also got him to high places in life, would be a great way to remain consistent with the theme and have us empathize with Bakugo even more. At the end of the day, Bakugo, a child with an overactive and excited body, grew up in an environment where he was held with high expectations from others and himself. He was gifted, but that came with constant need to fulfill those expectations that came with it. Seeing the most useless boy in the neighborhood showing courage and heroic actions when he has nothing to show for it pushed Bakugo into feeling inferior. When Deku, who has nothing, offers his hands to help him, Bakugo's realization of his own power dwindled. He felt weak and helpless himself. Feeling this insecurity made Bakugo thirsty to never feel weak, especially never to someone who started from a lesser position than himself. With that ambition for power and strength, along with his heightened adrenaline rushing through his body, it made Bakugo a hot-headed person. However, due to his intellectual capabilities, he has allowed himself to grow into potentially being the #1 hero he strives to be. By accepting the need for change and going against his own nature truly makes Bakugo a great hero. I'm going to end this video with a statement from Horikoshi, where in regards to Bakugo, where he said, "In the beginning, I decided that as a character, he thinks that Deku is above him, so he tries to act intimidating and superior to overtake him. I also thought to have him and Deku improve on 2 separate vectors as they entered UA, but when he fought against Deku, Bakugo actually cried, right? It was at that time I figured out that if I were to properly draw him, then his good side will also come out, and I was able to find an enticing part of his character. At first, I wanted Bakugo to continue being a horrible character, but if I went with my original plan, then he wouldn't be popular at all." Horikoshi also added that he decided from the start that Bakugo would be a character that would never lose to the darkness. When he was taken by the villains, readers thought that he might turn evil, but Horikoshi knew he never would do that. Regardless of anything, the plan from the beginning was to make Bakugo a true hero. And that's where we end this video, guys. Make sure to smash the like button and leave in the comment section below who you guys want us to cover next. With that, I'll see you till next time.